Friends, in this lecture, we'll see about the segment. So, whatever is a packet in TCP is called a segment. So, now we'll discuss about the format of TCP segment. So, this diagram is going to show the TCP segment format. You can see that the header is 20 to 60 bytes and the data, okay, then this is a segment. Then you can see header. So whatever is this figure, it is a header. Source port address 16 bits, destination port address 16 bits, sequence number 32 bits, acknowledgement number 32 bits, HLEN 4 bits, reserved 6 bits, URG, ACK, PCA, PSH, RST, SYN, FIN, window size 16 bits and checksum 16 bits and urgent pointer 16 bits, options and padding up to 40 bytes. This is the header. Okay. Now we'll discuss about this format. Okay. The segment, it consists of a header which is of 20 to 60 bytes and that is followed by data from the application program. The header is 20 bytes if there are no options and it can be up to 60 bytes if it is going to contain the options. Okay, so we'll see the header fields in this section. Okay, the source port address which is of 16 bits. So these are the fields of the header, 16 bits. So this 16 bit field that defines the port number of the application program in the host that is sending the segment. Destination port address which is also of 16 bit. This 16 bit field that defines the port number of the application program in the host that is receiving the segment. Then next, sequence number. Sequence number which is of 32 bits. This 32 bit field defines the number assigned to the first byte of data contained in this segment. As TCP is a stream transport protocol, in order to ensure connectivity, whatever are the bytes, each byte has to be transmitted must be numbered. So the sequence number tells the destination which byte is in the sequence is the first byte in the segment. Then during connection establishment, each party is going to use a random number generator to create an initial sequence number ISN which is usually different in each direction. Then next we'll see about acknowledgement number, which is here you can see acknowledgement number which is of 32 bits defines the byte number that the receiver of the segment is expecting to receive from the other party. If the receiver of the segment has successfully received byte number X from the other party, it returns X plus 1 as the acknowledgement number. Acknowledgement and data can be piggybacked together. Next we'll see about header length. So header length, here it is shown, no? Header length which is of 4 bits. Okay, header length HLEN 4 bits. This 4 bit field indicates the number of 4 byte words in the TCP header. So whatever is the length of the header, it can be up to, it is shown here, it can be up to 20 to 60 bytes. Therefore, the value of this field is always between 5 and 15. That is 5 into 4 is 20 and 15 into 4 is 60. So it can be up to value 5 and 15. Next we'll see about control. This field defines 6 different control flags or bits which has been one or more of these bits can be set at a time. These bits enable flow control, connection establishment and termination, connection abortion and the mode of data transfer in TCP. So, okay, that you can see here. URG, ACK, PSH, RST, SYN, FIN. Now, we'll see another diagram of control field. Okay, so this diagram is going to show the control field. Okay, you can see how many flags are there in this. Total 6 flags: URG, ACK, PSH, RST, SY and FN. URG stands for urgent pointer is valid. ACK acknowledgement is valid. PSH request for push. RST reset the connection. SYN synchronize sequence number. FN terminate the connections. Okay. So this is a control field. Then next, is the window size. You can see the window size is of 16 bits. This field is defining the window size of the sending TCP in bytes. This one important point to note is that the length of this field is 16 bits, which means that the maximum size of the window is 65535 bytes. So whatever is this value, it is normally referred to as receiving window which is known as RWND, and it is determined by the receiver. The sender must obey the dictation of the receiver in this case. Next is checksum, okay, which is of 16 bits again. This 16-bit field contains the checksum. The calculation of the checksum for TCP follows whatever is a procedure that has been described for UDP. So the use of this checksum, what is in UDP datagram, is optional, whereas the use of the checksum for TCP is mandatory. The same pseudo header serving the same purpose is added to the segment. So for TCP pseudo header, the value for the protocol field is 6. Okay. So this diagram is going to illustrate the pseudo header added to the TCP datagram. So you can see the pseudo header added to the TCP datagram. You can see here, no? Data and option padding must be added to make the data a multiple of 16-bit. Then whatever is this checksum, the use of the checksum in TCP is mandatory. And you can see that for the TCP pseudo header, the value of the protocol field is 6. The value of the protocol field is 6. Here it has been shown, no? This part represents the pseudo header. You can see this part represents the pseudo header. Okay, you can see pseudo header. Okay, this part represents the pseudo header which has been added to the TCP datagram, and the value for the protocol field is 6. Next, URG pointer, urgent pointer. You can see here URG urgent pointer is the next field in header. This is also of 16-bit. This is valid only if urgent flag is set. So only when that urgent flag is set, then the 16-bit field URG pointer is set. Is used when the segment contains urgent data. It defines a value that must be added to the sequence number to obtain the number of the last urgent byte in the data section of the segment. So okay, it defines a value that must be added to the sequence number to obtain the number of the last urgent byte in the data section of the segment. Then next is options. You can see here options. This can be up to 40 bytes of optional information in the TCP header. Okay. Next, we'll discuss about encapsulation. Whatever is this TCP segment, it encapsulates the data that has been received from the application layer. The TCP segment is encapsulated in a IP datagram, then which again in turn is encapsulated in a frame at the data link layer. Next, we'll see about TCP connection. TCP connection. TCP connection. So we already know that TCP is connection oriented. So this connection oriented transport protocol is establishing a logical path between the source and the destination. Then how many segments are there? All of the segments belonging to a message are then sent over this logical path. So a single logical pathway will be used for the entire message facilities, the acknowledgement process as well as retransmission of damaged or lost process. So for the entire message facilities, the acknowledgement process as well as retransmission of damaged or lost frames, a single logical path will be used. Okay. Then whatever is this TCP which is going to use the services of IP, which is a connectionless protocol, it can be connection oriented. The point is that a TCP connection is logical, not physical. TCP connection is logical, not physical. Okay, not physical. This TCP operates at a higher level. Then the TCP uses the services of IP to deliver individual segments to the receiver, but it controls the connection itself. So when a segment is lost or corrupted, it is retransmitted. Then this IP is unaware of this retransmission. Okay, if a segment arrives out of order, so the segments have to arrive, but if a segment arrives out of order, TCP holds it until the missing segment arrives. IP is unaware of this reordering. So this connection oriented transmission in TCP is going to have three phases, or it requires three phases: connection establishment, data transfer, and connection termination. So you can see this diagram. Okay, that we'll see. First we'll see about connection establishment. So this TCP transmits data in full duplex mode. When two TCPs in two machines are connected, they are able to send segments to each other simultaneously. So what does this mean is that each party must initialize communication and get approval from the other party before any data are transferred. Okay, each party must initialize communication and get approval from the other party before any data are transferred. Next we will see about three-way handshaking. Whatever is this connection establishment phase in TCP is called three-way handshaking. Okay, so there is a particular example which has been explained. There is an application program which is called as client. You can see here, there is an application program which is called as client. Then it wants to make a connection with another application program called the server. Okay, then the two using TCP as transport layer protocol. So the process is going to start with the server. Whatever is a program in this server, the server program tells its TCP that it is ready to accept a connection. Then this is known as passive open request. So you can see a passive open request will be initiated by the server in indicating it wants to make a connection with connection, it is ready to accept a connection. Then even the server TCP is although ready to accept a connection from any machine in the world, but it cannot make the connection itself. Okay, you have to remember, it cannot make the connection with itself. The client program, so whatever is this client program, then it will issue an request for an active open. You can see active open, no? active open. So this active open request is being issued by client program. Then a client that wishes to connect to an open server tells its TCP to connect to a particular server. Then TCP can now start the three-way handshaking process. Okay, you can see three-way handshaking process. Okay, then here timelines are being used in order to show the process. So how many segments are there? Each segment has values for all its header fields and perhaps for some of its option fields also. So we show here they are going to show only the few fields necessary to understand each phase. Okay, the sequence number will be shown, the acknowledgement number, the control flags, okay, only those that are set, and window size if relevant. The three steps in this phase are as follows. So we'll see what are the three steps. The first step is the client sends the first segment. Here you can see the client sends the first segment, which is known as SYN segment, in which only SYN flag is set. You can see here SYN flag is set. Okay, then what for this segment is needed for synchronization of sequence number. So the client in this particular example will choose a random number as a first sequence number and sends this number to the server. Then this number is, which is sequence number, is known as initial sequence number ISN. Then this segment does not contain an acknowledgement number. It does not define the window size either. A window size definition makes sense only when a segment includes an acknowledgement. The segment can also include some options that we will not be discussed now. This SYN segment is a control segment and carries no data. It consumes one sequence number because it needs to be acknowledged. Then SYN segment carries one imaginary byte. Okay, a SYN segment cannot carry data, but it consumes one sequence number. Second is the server, whatever is the server, sends the second segment. You can see it sends the second segment SYN plus ACK with two flag bits as SYN and ACK. This segment has a dual purpose. What is a dual purpose? Is first, it is a SYN segment for communication in other direction. The server uses this segment to initialize a sequence number for numbering the bytes sent from server to the client. The server also acknowledges the receipt of the SYN segment from the client by setting the ACK flag and displaying the next sequence number it expects to receive from the client. Whatever is this segment which is going to contain an acknowledgement, it also needs to define the receive window size RWND. Here you can see RWND, which has been shown in flow controls. This segment RWND has been shown here now 5000, you can see. So whatever is this segment, it is playing the role of a SYN segment which needs to be acknowledged and it consumes one sequence number. So whatever is this SYN plus ACK segment cannot carry data, but it does consume one sequence number. The third step is the client sends the third segments. You can see the third segment. This is just only a ACK segment. It acknowledges the receipt of the second segment with the ACK flag and acknowledgement number field. The acknowledgement segment does not consume any sequence number if it does not carry any data. But some implementations have allowed this third segment in the connection phase to carry the first chunk of data from the client. So the segment consumes as many sequence number as the number of data bytes. An ACK segment, if carrying no data, consumes no sequence number. Then we'll see what is meant by this SYN flooding attack. Whatever is a connection establishment procedure in TCP is susceptible to a serious security problem, so called SYN flooding attack. Then this happens because when one or more malicious attackers send a large number of SYN segments to a server pretending that each one of them is coming from a different client by faking the source IP addresses in the datagram. Then whatever is at server, assuming that the clients are issuing an active open, allocates the necessary resources like creating transfer control block, TCP tables and setting timer. The TCP server then sends a SYN plus ACK segment to the flag clients which are lost. Then the server waits for a third leg of the handshaking process. However, resources are allocated without being used. So, if during this short period of time the number of SYN segments is large, the server eventually runs out of resources and may be unable to accept connection requests from valid clients. So, this SYN flooding attack belongs to a group of security attacks known as a denial of service attack, in which an attacker monopolizes a system with so many service requests that the system overloads and denies service to valid request. Okay, so whatever are these implementations of TP, out of them, some of them have strategies to alleviate the effect of SYN attack. So, they have imposed a limit of connection requests during the specific period of time, whereas others try to filter out datagrams coming from unwanted source addresses. Then, at presently, there is one recent strategy. What is that is to postpone resource allocation till or until the servers can verify that the connection request is coming from a valid IP address by what is so called as cookie. Okay. Next we'll see about data transfer. Once connection is established, bidirectional data transfer takes place. Okay. Then the client and server can send data and acknowledge in both the direction. Okay. Then both the directions. The acknowledgement is piggybacked with the data. Is piggybacked with the data. Piggyback with the data. Just a minute. Is piggybacked with the data. So, whatever is this example that is going to show about data transfer after a connection is established, you can see the client. This is a client. The client sends 2000 bytes of data in two segments. You can see the client sends 2000 bytes of data in two segments. The server then sends 2000 bytes in one segment. Okay, client in two segments 2000 byte, server 2000 bytes in one segment. The client sends one more segment. You can see here 8001 to 9000. Okay, then 9001 to 10,000. But here from server it is 15,000 to 17,000. So 2000 in one segment. Again here it is only one. Okay. Now the first three segments carry both data and acknowledgement. You can see here they are going to carry both data and acknowledgement. Both data and acknowledgement. Okay. Acknowledgement. Whereas this particular last segment, you can see it is going to carry only acknowledgement. You can see only acknowledgement. Only acknowledgement. There is no here both acknowledgement and data. Acknowledgement and data. Acknowledgement and data, only acknowledgement. You can see here. Okay. Acknowledgement. because there is no further data to be sent. Then whatever are the values of sequence and acknowledgement numbers, there is a need to know that. The data segment sent by the client have PSH flag. You can see here, no? Sent by the client. So you can see the data sent by the client has PSH flag. Here also it is PSH, but you cannot see. The server TCP knows to deliver data to the server process as soon as it. Okay, but you cannot see that in server side. Okay, they are going to deliver the segment from the other hand does not set the push flag. You cannot see here, no, is there P? No here. Okay, push flag is not there. So most TCP implementations have the option to set or not set the flag. Okay. Next we'll see about pushing data. What is meant by pushing data? Okay, the sending TCP uses a buffer to store the stream of data coming from the sending application program. Then the sending TCP can select the segment size. The receiving TCP also buffers the data when they arrive and delivers them to the application program when the application program is ready or if it is convenient for the receiving TCP. So whatever is this type of flexibility, it is going to increase efficiency of TCP. But there are some occasion in which only an application program has no need for this flexibility. So that application program will be considered, okay, considered as an example. An application program which wants to communicate interactively with another application program on another. The application program on one side wants to send a chunk of data to the application program at other side and receive an immediate response. Delayed transmission and delayed delivery of data may not be acceptable by the application program. Then whatever is a TCP, can handle such a situation. Okay, you can see. This is a data transfer diagram. Okay, so TCP can handle such. So the application program at the sender can request a push operation. Push operation. What does this mean is that sending TCP must not wait for the window to be filled. Rather, it must create a segment and send it immediately. The sending TCP must also set the push bit PSH to let the receiving TCP know that the segment includes data that must be delivered to the receiving application program as soon as possible and not to wait for more data to come. So this means that changing the byte oriented TCP to a chunk oriented TCP. But TCP can choose whether or not to use this feature. Next is about urgent data. Urgent data. So in this diagram you can see connection establishment is here. Connection establishment. Then data transfer is going on. Last is connection termination. Okay. Then you can see send request, send receive, send request, PSH flag, ASIC flag, urgent data. So whatever is this TCP, it is a stream oriented protocol. What does this mean? That data is presented from the application program to TCP as a stream of bytes. Then each byte of data has a position in the stream. But there are some occasions in which an application program needs to send some urgent bytes, and those bytes must be treated in a special way by the application at the other end. So what is the solution for this is to send a segment with URG bit set. URG bit set. The sending application program tells the sending TCP that the piece of data is urgent. Then what does the sending TCP do is it creates a segment and inserts the urgent data at the beginning of the segment, whereas the rest of the segment will contain normal data from the buffer. Then the urgent pointer field in the header defines the end of urgent data, which is the last byte of urgent data. So there is an example which has been shown here. If the segment sequence number is 15,000 and the value of urgent pointer is 200, then the first byte of urgent data is a byte 15,000 and the last byte is a byte 15,200, which is of urgent data. Whereas the rest of the bytes in the segment, if present, are non-urgent. Okay. Then there is some important to mention. What is that is TCP's urgent data is neither a priority service nor a out of bound data service as some people think. Then this TCP urgent mode is a service by which the application program at the sender side marks some portion of the byte stream as needing special treatment by the application program at receiver side, whereas the receiving TCP delivers data urgent or non-urgent to the application program in order, and it informs the application program about the beginning and end of urgent data. So whatever is this, it is left to application program to decide what to do with urgent data. Next is connection termination. So once connection established over data transfer, then last is connection termination. Either of the two parties involved in exchanging data, client or server, can close the connection, although it is usually initiated by the client. Most implementations today allow two options for connection termination: three-way handshaking and four-way handshaking with a half close option. So I'll discuss it.